Where can I better play to my strengths? When we ask, where can I better play to my strengths, we often think of talent, skill, the things that come easily. But what if that very assumption is what holds us back? We imagine strengths as traits we've already mastered: public speaking, analytical thinking, creativity, charisma. We think of strengths as gifts, often fixed, granted at birth or honed with time, but rarely questioned. And in doing so, we miss the deeper truth. The Stoics, those fierce guardians of inner clarity, would challenge us to look beneath the surface. Marcus Aurelius didn't consider his ability to rule as emperor to be his strength. No, his strength was self-control in the face of temptation, compassion in the face of betrayal, steadfastness amid political chaos. For the Stoics, strength is not always visible, it is not glamorized. It's the quiet endurance of insult without retaliation. It is the effort to show up again and again to a life you didn't choose, but now bear responsibly. So when we ask, where can I play to my strengths? The better question is, what kind of strength am I even seeking to express? Is it strength of character, strength of consistency, strength of will, of kindness? Each of us holds within a constellation of strengths, many of which we overlook because they don't align with society's spotlight. We praise the loud, the charismatic, the high achiever. But what about the one who listens, the one who refuses to speak ill of others, the one who knows how to mend conflict rather than escalate it? The world may not reward these strengths with applause, but the Stoic reminds us that applause was never the goal. Living in accordance with nature, with reason and with virtue, that's the goal. And so, our strengths must be examined in light of those values. Are your strengths aiding the common good or your ego? Are they helping you endure hardship or helping you avoid it? Sometimes we cling to a so-called strength, say persuasive speech, but we use it to manipulate rather than to clarify. Other times we believe a quality is a weakness, like sensitivity, but it turns out to be a strength of empathy and connection. It is a worthy endeavor to catalogue your strengths, but it's even more worthy to ask, am I using them to serve the greater good? Am I tempering them with wisdom? Because unchecked strength is not strength, it is recklessness. Seneca wrote that no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Strength, then, is not found in the absence of hardship, but in our response to it. So today, we begin this journey of reflection. Not merely to list our strengths, but to test them, to aim them, to refine them. Because if we are to play to our strengths, we must first be honest about what strength truly is. Before we continue, I want to share something important with you. We've seen that a large number of our viewers, perhaps even you, listen regularly, but haven't yet subscribed. If this message has resonated with you so far, if you find even a moment of stillness or clarity in these reflections, we kindly ask you to consider subscribing. This channel is not about noise, it's not about trends, it's about service. And I can promise you this, our small but committed team will continue doing everything we possibly can to bring you value every single week. Thoughtfully researched, carefully written, quietly powerful. All we ask in return is that you join us by subscribing and turn on notifications so you never miss your next moment of insight. Let's walk this path together. When we think of playing to our strengths, we often imagine dramatic scenarios, high-stakes meetings, grand performances, public milestones. But the truth is, our strengths, our real ones, are forged and revealed in the mundane. The ancient Stoics knew this well. Epictetus did not train his students to endure war or govern empires, though some would. He trained them to endure mornings, to handle an insult, to sit with discomfort without complaint, to face another ordinary day and do what was right, not what was easy. So let us ask, where are the overlooked arenas in daily life where our strength can shine? Take the morning commute. Do you curse the traffic? Or do you use it to cultivate patience? In the meeting that drags on, do you check out? Or do you practice attentiveness and presence? To better play to your strengths, you must first see where those strengths are most needed. And often it is not where you are praised. It's where you are bored, frustrated, tempted to disconnect. That is where strength begins to operate quietly, almost invisibly. Look at how you handle your phone, your downtime, your conversations with service workers, with colleagues, with your children when you're tired. Do you rise above yourself? or sink into reaction. The Stoics taught that every situation, no matter how trivial, contains a test. You don't need a battlefield to cultivate courage. You don't need a courtroom to sharpen justice. You don't need a platform to practice humility. The gym is not the only training ground for your character. Your living room is, your inbox is, the mess in your kitchen is. We are always being trained. The only question is, trained into what? We often avoid discomfort and label it as a weakness. But discomfort is where dormant strengths stir awake. The strength to endure delay, to say no, to say yes, to not take the bait. So how can we better spot these opportunities? Start with the friction. Friction is the invitation. Where you feel resistance, that's where growth lives. Someone gossips and you feel pulled in, opportunity. You make a mistake and feel the urge to blame someone else. Opportunity. You're asked to repeat yourself again by your child or your colleague. Opportunity. Playing to your strengths isn't about avoiding weakness, it's about recognizing where the battlefield of character actually is and showing up. It's mundane, it's repetitive, it's unglamorous. But it is in these moments that a life of strength is truly built. Because consistency, not intensity, is what defines a virtuous life. You don't need to be a hero once, you need to be steady daily. What happens when your greatest strength is not what the world rewards, when your deepest gift isn't easily monetized, isn't trending, isn't even seen? This is where many people abandon their strengths, not because they weren't valuable, but because they weren't validated. A quiet thinker in a loud boardroom, a patient listener in a culture that glorifies speed, a principled worker in a workplace that cuts corners. If you've ever wondered, am I wasting myself? You are not alone. But here's the truth. Your strength is not defined by applause, it is revealed by adversity. Seneca wrote, "It is in times of security that the soul should prepare itself for difficulty." And Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, reminded himself, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." These men lived at the pinnacle of power. Yet their counsel is not about dominance, but discipline. To play to your strengths, sometimes you must go against the grain. This means speaking truth in rooms that prefer silence, choosing long-term integrity over short-term gain, slowing down in a world that punishes slowness. It will not feel good, it will not win you popularity, but it will win you back yourself. There is no virtue in strength if it folds under pressure. If you abandon it at the first sign of rejection, was it ever really strength? Your environment may not reward your strength, but that's not the point. Your character is not on lease from your surroundings, it is owned and earned from within. So how do you stay strong when everything nudges you toward compromise? You remind yourself, you're not here to impress. You are here to express, to be, not to perform. You remind yourself that in the silence of effort, in the stillness of rejection, you are forming something that no title, no paycheck, no applause can offer. True inner power. It's not flashy, it's not viral, but it's durable. The world may not understand your strength yet. That does not make it invalid. That makes it necessary, because every age needs outliers. Every culture needs contrast, and every community needs someone who says, even if no one else will, I will. Even if it's unseen, even if it's lonely, even if it's slow. That is strength, not reactive, not performative, not boastful, but deep, quiet, and relentless. So ask yourself today, what is mine to uphold even when others won't? That is likely your greatest strength. There is a myth we inherit early in life, that strengths are fixed, that some are born with talent and others simply aren't. But what if we've misunderstood what strength really is? The Stoics would argue, strength is not something you have, it is something you practice. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations because he had everything figured out. He wrote to remind himself daily, to hold the line, to return to his better judgment, to not be ruled by fear, vanity, or impulse. Seneca wrote letters to Lucilius, not because he had mastered life, but because he was learning how to master himself. They didn't see strength as a performance, they saw it as a discipline, an act, a repetition, a muscle that must be exercised. You may think your strength is only available when you feel strong, but that's precisely when it's most absent. Real strength shows up when the feelings don't. When you feel tired but choose focus. When you feel discouraged but stay committed. When you feel inadequate but show up anyway. This is where strength is forged, not in ease, but in effort. Let's redefine strength for what it is. Strength is making that difficult phone call. Strength is showing up to work when you're filled with doubt. Strength is parenting with patience after a sleepless night. Strength is apologizing when you've hurt someone. Strength is saying no when it costs you popularity. Not one of those requires a special gift, but all of them demand character. And this is where your true potential lies, not in what you're good at, but in how consistently you can do what's right. Can you keep going when you don't want to? Can you return to your values when you're tempted to drift? Strength isn't glorious. It's often quiet, unseen, uncelebrated. It happens in the in-between moments, when no one is watching, when it would be easy to cut corners, when no reward is guaranteed. Your strength is what you recur to. It's the choice you repeat. It's the boundary you keep. It's the voice you honor, even when others dismiss it. If you want to better play to your strengths, stop chasing your gifts and start committing to your standards. Start treating every moment like a training ground, because that's exactly what it is. Not a stage, not a test, a practice. And like any discipline, the more you return to it, the more you become it. So ask yourself, what principle am I willing to return to every single day? That, right there, is your strength. The final, and perhaps most important, turn in this journey is realizing that your strengths are not merely for you. They are not ornaments of personal achievement. They are not weapons for comparison. They are instruments of service. What is not good for the beehive, Marcus Aurelius wrote, cannot be good for the bee. Your strengths are at their highest expression not when they bring you recognition, but when they bring others relief. This is the ultimate use of strength, to carry what others cannot, to protect what is fragile, to elevate what is low, to repair what has been broken. So much of modern ambition is steeped in ego, a fixation on becoming exceptional, of rising above, of being more than others. But the Stoic view turns that inside out. You are strongest not when you stand out, but when you stand with. Not when you shine, but when you illuminate. Not when you win, but when you uplift. Think of the people who left the deepest impression on your life. Was it because they were the smartest, the most charismatic, the wealthiest, or was it because they showed up when you were afraid, listened when no one else did, challenged you to grow but never walked away when you fell short? Those are the kinds of strengths that change lives, the invisible ones, the daily ones, the human ones. So, where can you better play to your strengths? Perhaps it's not in another goal to chase. Perhaps it's in a person near you, waiting for someone to say, I can help. The colleague who's overwhelmed, the friend who's been silent, the parent who's aging, the neighbor who always waves but never talks, the stranger you could protect with a simple act of decency. You don't have to go far to use your strength. You just have to look closer. Seneca reminds us, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Let your strengths be shaped by your capacity to care, not just for how they make you feel, but for how they make others feel when you use them. Strength is never wasted when it's spent on others, and the paradox is this: the more you give your strength away, the more of it you find within, because that's what character does. It regenerates in the act of service. So ask again, and ask often, where can I better play to my strengths? Then answer it by doing what is in your power, with humility, with resolve, with love. And above all, do it not for applause, but because it's right. This is the strongest thing a human can do.